Why do some businesses take off while others fail? Now, in this video, I'll analyze what I've learned from working with over 5,000 students in my e-commerce course and break down the key reasons why some students fail. Now, if you run an online business and it simply isn't growing, here are 9 reasons why and what you can do about it. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and be sure to hit the bell button to be notified when new videos come out. Now, for the past 10 years, well over 5,000 students have joined my Create a Profitable Online Store course, but I want to be straight up with you. Not everyone who has signed up has been successful with their e-commerce business. And when it comes to being a successful entrepreneur, the biggest variable in the equation is always you. Do you have the necessary motivation and drive to succeed? And do you have the persistence to push through the initial learning curve? And do you have an open mind for learning? Now, after teaching my class for several years now, I found that the most important aspect of running an online business is execution and persistence. Can you carry out what needs to be done, and do you balk at the first sign of adversity? So today, I want to talk about some of the patterns that I've noticed with the students in my class who have done well. And I also want to point out some common pitfalls with students who have failed. Now, late last year, I conducted a survey of the students in my class, and here's a snapshot of the data. Of the students who have been in my class for a year and launched a product, 56% are generating at least 4 figures per month, and almost 10% are doing over $50,000 per month in revenue. Now, while these statistics are pretty impressive by online course standards, the real question is, what is happening to the other 44%? And why are there so many students not making money? So in this video, I will give you my take on what the successful students in my course are doing versus what the failing students are not. And hopefully this analysis will set the proper expectations for those who are thinking about starting an online business or quitting their existing one. Okay, attribute number 1. Successful entrepreneurs don't sit around waiting for traffic to magically appear. Now, in any group of students, there are always those who refuse to spend any money or do any additional legwork after their store has launched. They come into the class with a grand vision that they'll start ranking immediately in the search engines within a month, and traffic and sales will be free-flowing like water. Now, these students usually start out very diligently by finding a good niche, acquiring vendors, and even putting up a decent-looking website or Amazon listing. But then they launch and refuse to spend any more money or do any additional marketing because they are waiting for the magical Google Amazon traffic spigot to open up. So what usually happens next is that they'll waste time rearranging different parts of their site and doing other silly things that are completely irrelevant when they could be writing content, buying PPC or Amazon ads, building backlinks, running giveaways, gathering emails, or doing some good old legwork. And within a couple weeks, they quickly become discouraged by their lack of sales, and then they start doubting themselves. Was this the right decision? Did I just waste all of my time on a store that generates no income? Meanwhile, it's only been a couple of weeks, and they haven't really done anything proactive to build traffic to their website. Now, just a quick note to all business owners, the launch of your product is just the beginning. After you launch is when the real work begins, and oftentimes you will either have to spend money to acquire traffic or do some legwork to get customers in the door, and the legwork is the key. Early on with our online store, we did a combination of cold calling, forum marketing, content marketing, PPC marketing, and funneling prospects from eBay to attract our earlier customers. In fact, search engine traffic was practically non-existent until about the 6-month mark. And without our other efforts, we wouldn't have generated many sales at all during the first 6 months. And whenever I think of students who have done the legwork, I think of Abby Walker of Vivian Liu. Click on the link in the show notes if you want to listen to her full hour-length podcast interview. Now, because of her persistence and tenacity, she designed her own website, learned Facebook ads, cold called vendors, flew across the country to give product pitches, and eventually ended up on HSN and Oprah magazine. Now, the legwork is never glamorous and it's not always fun, but early on you need to do what you need to do to get customers in the door. Successful entrepreneurs also choose winnable niches. A large part of my class is devoted to helping students find the right niche, and there's always a delicate balance when deciding what to sell online. On one end of the spectrum, you need to sell something that has sufficient demand, but on the other hand, the product category must not be too competitive or saturated. And I can't tell you how many students sign up for my class with a preconceived notion of what they want to sell. But here's the thing, even after running the numbers and realizing that selling t-shirts is probably not the best idea, they go for it anyways. Now, I don't want to say that it's impossible to succeed in a highly competitive niche, and if you know how to advertise well, you can make any niche work. However, it will be much more difficult and your time frame to profitability will be significantly longer, and the niche that you choose is important, and picking the right product to sell will make things much easier for you in the long run. In fact, I would not even consider launching a product of any kind without running a quantitative analysis of my potential profitability. It is not a guessing game. There is a science behind choosing the right product. And the best students in my class spend a good amount of time carefully researching their niche before they fully commit, and they find alternate ways to test their products before spending a large sum of money. And even though they're anxious to jump straight into the implementation phase, they take their time to make sure that the first crucial step is done correctly. And not only that, but the best students in my class make sure that they can provide a unique value proposition which makes their shop and products stand out among the competition. Now, successful entrepreneurs also take action. The majority of my unsuccessful students never get past the starting line. And in fact, I hesitate to say that these students failed because you can't really fail unless you give something an honest try. Now, the most common symptom among brand new students is analysis paralysis. They get so hung up in the research phase that they never take action. And believe it or not, engineering majors are actually the most susceptible to this because they expect to have hard answers before they begin. Steve, is this project going to be a winner? Steve, can you guarantee that this is going to work? And Steve, how much time is it going to take to make 100K? Now, in business and life, there are no definite answers, and you can do all the research that you want, but you'll never know whether something's going to sell until you throw it up and try to sell it. And the best students in my class are comfortable with taking action with imperfect information. They are comfortable investing a small amount of money as a test to see what works, and they're willing to take a small leap of faith. Now, successful entrepreneurs always follow through. And this last point is critical and oftentimes the most difficult aspect of teaching my class. As part of my class, I take the time to thoroughly critique a student's site or Amazon listing before they go live, and oftentimes I will redesign their entire website for them. And the hope is that by providing early and actionable feedback, a student can avoid wasting time and money on ads or other forms of marketing for a non-converting site. And as far as I know, there's no other class or online program out there that does this. Not only does it take a tremendous amount of my own personal time, but I also take a lot of pride in providing honest and actionable feedback. Anyway, there are times after a site critique where I notice that a student never ends up acting upon any of my feedback. Now, I'll be the first to say that I'm not always 100% correct, but I'm usually pretty close. And in general, it frustrates me to see someone failing, even though I know that a couple tweaks here and there could make a huge difference. Now, running an online business is not a stagnant affair. And even after you've launched, you should be constantly tweaking your site and making small changes to improve conversions, and testing is the key. The people who fail are the ones who are not willing to make any major changes after launch. So don't fall into this trap. What defines a successful entrepreneur versus a failing one is how you behave when things don't go as planned. Failing entrepreneurs tend to wallow in self-pity at their lack of progress. Failing entrepreneurs tend to stay on the same path even though things are not working. And failing entrepreneurs feel helpless, make excuses, and play the victim card. Meanwhile, successful entrepreneurs take a step back, analyze what went wrong, and plot a different course of action. Now, successful entrepreneurs also don't get bogged down with the little details. Almost all of my students who run successful companies have this uncanny knack for staying focused and not getting sidetracked by minute details. Now, there's a reason why this is a very important trait. Not only could it quite possibly be the most important one, but it used to be, and still is, one of my greatest weaknesses. And looking back, when I first started my wedding linen store, I kept getting stuck on stupid, meaningless details. So for example, when I was working on the first iteration of my website, I remember spending 8 hours tweaking the look of the sidebar and header for my online store. I would move my logo over 10 pixels to the right, make the sidebar just a little bit wider, and move things around. And after all that tweaking, everything still looked pretty much the same. And I wasted many hours that I could have been using to grow the business, especially in the early stages. Now, if you've taken my free 6-day mini course, you've probably seen me talk about various shopping carts like Shopify, BigCommerce, and WooCommerce, and here's what I've come to realize. Even though I'm still a huge proponent of owning your source code and having the flexibility of an open source platform like Woo, 90% of you are probably better off using a fully hosted solution like Shopify or BigCommerce because the little details of site design can bog you down. Is your time better spent tweaking your website or formulating your sales plan? Good entrepreneurs know their priorities and will rarely waste time in any activity that doesn't directly affect their end goal. And speaking from experience, it's all too easy to become engrossed in something that appears to be significant on the surface, but actually doesn't matter at all. You have to prioritize. Now, successful entrepreneurs also know when someone else can do the job better and faster. Now, one of the easiest traps to fall into is to try to do everything yourself, especially if you want the right person for the job. A lot of new students will often try to save money on a bootstrap budget, even if doing so is not in line with their goals. They don't take into account the time aspect of their work and think strictly in terms of dollars. But the best entrepreneurs I know optimize their time for maximum throughput. They know what they're good at and when to outsource. All right, confession time. Those of you who know me know that I always try to do everything myself, even if I'm not the right person for the job. And I've been known to code up entire plugins on my own in order to avoid getting nickel and dimed with a monthly fee for a simple feature. For example, I coded up a custom review system for my store instead of paying for a popular plugin that would have cost me hundreds of dollars per month. But hear me out here. When I take on the task of doing something myself, I do so for the sake of learning. And I rarely have a strict timetable. In addition, because I teach a class on e-commerce, I feel as though I must have detailed knowledge of everything that I teach. In fact, what differentiates me from a lot of other teachers out there is that I actually do everything myself and know all of the little details. But if you're a brand new entrepreneur just starting out, you need to consider the trade-offs of going cheap. When I first started out, I designed my own website, even though I knew nothing about web development or programming. And as a result of my lack of experience, I ended up spending a lot of time writing code that was already written by someone else before, and I devoted many hours learning and struggling through something that I could have easily hired someone else to do in a quarter of the time. Now, I don't regret my decision to learn about web programming, as I'm now self-sufficient when it comes to web design. But realistically, my wife and I could have launched our store several months earlier had we hired an expert to do the job. So you got to figure out your timetable and adjust accordingly. Now, successful entrepreneurs also know how to do the bare minimum just to get by. And if you've followed me for a while now, you probably know that I am a lazy entrepreneur. You don't need to be great at everything. In fact, you don't need to be an expert at anything unless it's one of the core competencies of your business. Now, my successful students are adept at learning and doing just the right amount of research and work to get by, and not an ounce more. Now, going back to the web design analogy, you don't need to reinvent the wheel in order to create a high-converting website. 90% of the features you need have already been written by someone else, and you just need to do your due diligence and find the required bits and pieces just to put it all together. For example, before you hire a developer to implement something custom, spend some time looking for a plugin that already does what you're looking for. Now, personally, before I start any coding project, I do a quick Google search to see what's already out there, and I would say that 9 times out of 10, I can simply piece together and adapt existing code for my own needs. Now, great entrepreneurs don't create anything from scratch unless they absolutely have to. All right, next up, successful entrepreneurs are excellent with people. Going out of your way to help others is my favorite trait of my successful students. I'm not sure if it's just a coincidence, but my most successful friends have gigantic networks of people who are always willing to help. And they've established these mutually beneficial relationships by helping each other out without expecting anything in return. In fact, I've never met a successful entrepreneur who also wasn't an excellent people person as well, and it seems as though making friends and helping others just comes with the territory. This is the main reason why I started my podcast. As an engineer who likes to hide behind a computer screen, podcasting forces me to reach out and meet new people. And as a result, I get to talk to someone new and successful for a solid hour every single week. Fostering lasting relationships is what I love about networking with new people, which is why I try to attend as many conferences as my wife will allow me to attend. And it's also why I started my own conference called the Seller Summit. Now, if you're interested in hanging out with me in person, tickets are on sale right now, so grab yours now. But above all else, being a successful entrepreneur is about listening to other people's problems and finding solutions. And great entrepreneurs simply just have a knack for fixing things. And the more people they can help, the more successful they become. Now, recently, I had a successful student, Maria, come on office hours to talk about how to avoid getting mind-effed with your business. And she's helped out on a number of occasions as well with the class. I'm very appreciative of her time. And it's no wonder that she's running a successful e-commerce business as well. It's just in her personality. And finally, successful entrepreneurs have an open mind. My best students are constantly learning. You've probably heard the story that the wealthiest entrepreneurs in the world read an insane number of books. For example, Warren Buffett has been known to read between 600 and 1,000 pages per day and devotes about 80% of each day to reading. Bill Gates reads about 50 books per year. Now, I don't read nearly as much as Warren Buffett or even Bill Gates, but one thing that I've learned from the great entrepreneurs of the world is to keep an open mind. After all, just because you are successful today doesn't mean that it will last forever, and you have to be constantly evolving your business in order to stay relevant. My favorite example of this is with Netflix. Even though they obliterated Blockbuster and were killing it with their mail order DVD rental business, Reed Hastings made the tough decision to focus the business towards streaming video. Now, in hindsight, this seemed like an obvious decision, but back in the day, DVD rentals were 99% of their business. Now, one of my favorite quotes of all time is from Andy Grove of Intel, who once said, "Only the paranoid survive." So if you're stuck in your ways and unwilling to change, then someone will eventually overtake you. And the only way to change is to expose yourself to new and different ways of thinking. Now, do you have the character traits of a successful shop owner? And if so, I want you in my class. I love running my course, but sometimes I get frustrated when a student doesn't follow through. Now, what can I say? I'm very passionate about making sure my students succeed. I want everyone to make money online, and I hate seeing someone give up when they're just so close to the tipping point. Sometimes it's just a matter of time until things start clicking, and sometimes it's just a matter of time until search engine traffic or word of mouth kicks in. The main thing is that you need to set the proper expectations for yourself and your business. Making money online is not something that happens overnight. It is a marathon and not a sprint, so you need to give yourself the necessary runway to give things a fair shot. Hope you enjoyed this video. Now, if you like what you saw, there's actually a lot more where that came from if you subscribe to my channel below. And if you are interested in learning how to sell physical products online, then click over here and take my free 6-day mini course where I'll walk you through everything that you need to know to get started in e-commerce. Thanks for watching.